Hey there, friends. How's it going? My name's Popeye, and today we got for you some more Umineko. Episode 2 we're going to be kicking off, but before we do that, we actually missed one part of Episode 1's epilogue. We're going to start with that. But before we even get into that, some trigger warnings for this game. This game has some pretty mature themes, including but not limited to death, murder, torture, child abuse, any of the murder stuff against a minor. And it's going to have some pretty vivid descriptions of that, as well as depictions of blood, as this is a murder mystery. Probably not the best time for the Konami. Also, Samus is subscribed before we got here. And they've been subscribed for 5 straight years. Stop that. But yeah, so last time, I guess, if you don't want to know probable spoilers to the ending of the first one, tune back in maybe about 10-ish minutes. Because we're going to do, we did the tea party for humans. We didn't do the tea party of the non-human, or the unhuman. So we're going to start with the tea party of the unhuman, and then kick off the second chapter. And yes, happy Pride Month. Yeah, there's a lot of things that are going on this month. We had Pride Month. Juneteenth was earlier. I think it's Pacific Islander Day as well. So there's lots of things for people to be celebrating, and I hope everyone has a reason to celebrate. Alright, so in the regular tea party, thanks for the hydrate. In the regular tea party, it was basically all of the humans, except for Battler, being like, Beatrice-sama is the best, all hail her. If we don't believe, then this happy ending goes away. And Battler's there like, nah, I can't believe in no witch. Human did this. And because of that, all the people there were slowly, essentially being like eaten alive by acid or whatever, because he wouldn't believe, so therefore the magic didn't take into effect, and they all died. And it ends with Battler and Beatrice basically having... Yeah, they're reliving their death. So, however they died, one person burned to death in the furnace, one person was stabbed in the chest, some people had their faces mutilated. Yeah. But it basically ends with Battler and Beatrice having a showdown, or Beatrice is like, if you think humans can do this, prove it, to which Battler is like, I don't know how to prove it, but I refuse to believe. Yes, re-dying their deaths. So now we have whatever other unhuman stuff there is. So we know that Beatrice has at least 2 demons that she calls, because she shows an example of how she could have done the locked room murder with our aunt and uncle in their bedroom, where one dies on the bed and one dies in the bathtub. And she calls upon 2 demons to do that. I'm sure there's more. In fact, I know there is, but we'll see that soon. What sort of tea party should I prepare now? Okay, chat, if you could have any tea that ever existed...
梅干し紅茶。梅干しは1パック200円のやつよ。
千年紅茶をたしなんだが、そのようなものは知らぬ。つくづくこの世は生き飽きぬものよ。
ベアト、
Beato.
そんなにも敵意をむき出しにしなくてもいいわ。
Now, those of you who are like, hold on a second, we'll get to it.
私は単なる旅の魔女。あなたの領地のルールを犯しに来たつもりはないわ。
敵意などみじんも。伝説の魔女ベルンカステル教に粗相がないか。
So she has a name, Baron Castell.
誤解があるわね。
I'll give people a minute to try to remember where they may have heard the name Baron Castell from before.
私は無力よ。あなたのように一人を100殺す恐ろしい力を持った魔女の前には、
その無力な魔女殿が何人たりとも寄せつけぬ力をお持ちなのだから恐れ入る。かの大魔女ラムダデルタ教を短期にて退けられたのだから。
Lambda Delta, another name. You haven't heard this name before, but you've probably seen the face of Lambda
コンクラ
Delta.
ベに勝っただけよ。
I'm gonna let this go on and I'll give the explanation at the end.
ラムダデルタ教はそうは言ってなかったがな。過ぎた謙遜はかえって醜くもあるぞ、ベルンカステル教。
あの子、
I believe Baron Castell is a German name.
一人を必ず殺す力。
The power to kill a person without fail is apparently the power Beatrice has, according to
しか
Baron
しこの世
Castell.
に必ずは存在しない。1をいくら割ろうとも決してゼロにはできぬように。あの子はそれを限りなくゼロに近づけ、限りなく絶対を生み出す力を持つ。
So, Baron Castell is asserting that there's no such thing as absolute probability. Simply put, her power is she is the limit as x approaches infinity of 1 over x. Or sorry, as x approaches 0 of 1 over x. You can get very close, but you can never quite hit 1 over 0.
あんな恐ろしい魔女と戦うのに二度とごめんね。
しかしそなたはゼロでない限り必ず成就させる力を持つ。この世に必ずは存在しないとのたまう今日ご自身が必ずの力をお持ちでおられる。恐ろしい恐ろしい。
一人を無限に殺す力。私はあなたの方が恐ろしいけれど。
ご冗談を。そなたから見ればこんなのはさまつな力。褒めても何も出ぬとはまさにこのこと。
世辞は滞在日替わり。私はかけらを渡り退屈から逃れ続ける逃亡の旅人。
Okay, if you've never seen this type of thing before, so the tiny word above it is like it's either a translation or an in-universe word. Hoyo does this a lot, where they'll have some in-universe word. Japanese does this where they have complex kanji, and sometimes they'll put the hiragana above it to help like younger people read it who don't know what the kanji is.
あなたが面白そうなことを始めたと聞いたからやってきただけのこと。あなたが面白くなくなったら勝手に
大ベルンカステル教にご降覧いただけ。このベアトリーチェ、強越至極に存じるぞ。
So Baron Castell is an observer. She's not going to get involved. At least that's what this says. I'm bigger. I'm smaller. How are we doing, Beardy?
してご感想
ラムダデルタはとても残酷で恐ろしいけれど理解できる子だった。あなたは一見慈しみがあるけれど
Doing
理
good.
解できない。
We're just finishing up the piece that we missed from the first chapter.
だからあの子
I didn't realize there was a post game scene. I'm not sure if we're going to see Lambda Delta in this one.
気まぐれなのは我が性許すがいい。それに気まぐれなるサイの目に運命を託すはベルンカステル教も好まれることだったのでは。
私はサイを振るときはっきりと出したい目がある。あなたとは違う。でもあなたにとってはすべての目があなたの
Yes,
手のひらを手に
after the scene, I will remind you of who Baron Castell is and where you may have heard of her. If Lambda Delta appears, I will also do the same thing with Lambda Delta, but I won't if we don't see Lambda Delta. I will leave that for people to try to figure out.
サイコロが何の目を見せようとも必ずその意味においてあなたは私をはるかに凌駕する。あなたとだけは戦いたくない。
I wish I could, as I'm having a conversation with someone, just disappear into the void when I don't feel like talking anymore.
あなたの中にゼロしかない。
So they're kind of asserting that they're the opposites, that Baron Castell is anything but zero. She desires something, she will roll for it, and as long as there is not a 0% chance, then she can endure it. Whereas
だから私の力ではあなたから
Beatrice
勝
is
機
the
を得られる。
opposite, since she anticipates everything, she's okay with everything, including nothing.
最悪な相性よ。ラムダデルタなら逆に相性がいいのかしら。あなたの無限を殺せるでしょうか。
やはり
What has Twitch done? I hope it's give everyone $1 million. Somehow I doubt that.
退屈しない。
ならよかったわ。退屈も私を殺す唯一の毒なの。だから私を殺さないでね。無限の魔女ベアトリーチェ卿。
それがお望みならこのベアトリーチェ、さらにならすぐにでも次のチェス盤をお持ちした方がよろしい。そなたにはどうも紅茶よりも次なる物語の方が
Oh yes, I did see
おかわりに
this.
ふさわしいらしい。
Yeah, so I believe the discount was a set percentage. It was like 30 or 35%, I want to say, something around that value. But what makes this cool is then you could say, do it on your stream anniversary, your birthday, things like that, that's unique to everyone.
しばし待たれよ。
Oh, now you can disappear.
あなたも厄介なのに好かれたようね。
Oh no, she's talking to us guys. I don't like that.
力を貸してあげたいのは山々だけれど聞いての通りあの子の力と私の力では相性が悪いの。おあいにくね。でもさすがに気の毒だから少しだけ力を貸してあげる。まずあの子のことベアトリーチェという名の存在を持っているけれどもだからといってそれは 一個体の女性とは限らない。意味がわかる？つまりあれは人間の誰かじゃない、この世界のルールが擬人化した存在だということ。あの子を倒すにはこの世界のルールを暴き、それを解きほぐさなければならない。それは例えるなら、ルールを知らないチェスを観戦しながら学んでいくようなもの。まずはチェス盤を見渡しなさい。そして駒の動きと役割に気づきなさい。そしてあの子のゲームの勝利条件を探りなさい。それらが暴けた時、そこにあの子の心臓がさらけ出される。あとは引き裂くも握りつぶすも思いのまま。私も気前がいいわね。かつて人並みだった頃、
Black was definitely in the stronger spot there.
気づくのに100年をかけたのに。これはベアトに囚われた哀れなあなたへのささやかな選別、さながら一本のスプーン。スプーンはスープを飲むのに使うだけじゃない、あなたを閉じ込める赤狼を掘り抜き、魔女の目玉をえぐる武器にもなる。
The king, White's king, could only have moved to the right. I think it was the bishop was on the left, the knight was in front of it. Black's bishop was pointed at the knight in front. And yeah, there was an open E file. Or I guess it would be the D file, because you do it from White's side.
もちろん永遠の赤狼の中で Just
remember, everyone, continually sip the watery soup inside of your eternal prison and everything will be fine.
勘違いしないでほしいのは、あなたに感情移入はするけれど、あなたがテレビの前でその向こうの人物にいくらエールを送っても
Oh wait, Dora resents this statement.
だから私が魔女だってわかるでしょ。私はベアトがこれから紡ぐ無限の物語を飽きでもきっとそれじゃ飽きちゃうから。だからあなたに力を貸すの。私が飽きないために。私は世界で一番残酷な魔女なの。どんな相手でも絶対に屈服させる無限の魔女ベアトリーチェであってもね。お前は私の駒よ。
I love when you're playing a game and you like walk into a boss room and the boss is just playing the organ theme for themselves.
せいぜい頑張りなさい。
I don't know if we can say for certain, so I like to give that warning just in case. I'm trying to think if there was actual examples. Burning someone alive? Torture?
あの子の目を盗んで時折助言を与えるわ。私を退屈
How are you
させない
doing, Destroyer? Oh, here's your chessboard. Okay. Oh, I had it wrong. The knight was not directly in front of the king. So let's see. Oh, dang it. Tortures one kid who looks at the eyes and says, Chaos doesn't have nipples or anything. He has whatever that is on his chest. That's cool. So because we finished it, we now actually have a new background. That's pretty cool. And we can look back at all of the characters of episode 1. The human side, the witch's side. Why can't I just execute people? So, okay, so I can see the state of everyone at any point in time. It is futile for a human like yourself to dream of killing me. Even if you fire bullets, they will merely bounce back as though by a mirror and strike you down. However, there is one single way to kill me. You grasp this method in the palm of your hand. I doubt a mediocre fool like you could ever do it, of course. That's funny. Interesting. Okay. Yes, we found our torture, because I can just kill people as many times as I want here. Alright, so Baron Castell, for those of you who don't remember, the start of each Higurashi game starts with a poem written by Baron Castell. And I won't go too much deeper into who Baron Castell is because of spoilers for Higurashi. Ryushiki has come out saying that they are not related, even though it looks like a certain character. Ryushiki has come out. Oh, I hadn't noticed the cattail. There you go, Sam says we have a cat girl. I hope that makes you happy. I hope it also doesn't make you mad that I killed the cat girl and then brought her back to life. But Ryushiki has come out saying that they are not the same person. I, for one, call bullshit. Yeah, she has 9 lives, so I've done it twice, I think. So yeah. The characters. What else is new? What is tips? Okay, so these are all like the letters. Okay, so like if you wanted to go back and try to figure out the mysteries, these are all kind of the important pieces of information, I guess, minus the actual like murder case files. It's like the epitaph, which is what we're supposed to be solving. Keep in mind, this is what we're supposed to be solving. And I don't think we looked at this after the first, the first or second episode. Stream, that is. But this is what we're supposed to be trying to solve. Alright. With all of that, we've done the tea party, we've done the unhuman tea party. There's also other cool stuff. You can go back and see different special pictures. You can listen to all the music in the game if you're like, I really like Prison Strip. Actually, that is a pretty good banger. Or World MVP. Actually, Golden Slaughter is a good song. Yeah, you can come back and listen to all of these. But with that, and because we've done that, we've officially unlocked episode 2. You are able to just unlock all of them. They recommend not. And in fact, even though we had beaten the first one, it didn't have the unlock because we hadn't done the Unhuman Tea Party. So it's actually pretty good about telling you, like, hey, there's still stuff from the first one that you haven't done. But without further ado, we're going to start episode 2. So episode 1 was called Legend of the Golden Witch. Episode 2 is called Turn of the Golden Witch. Good morning. The Golden Witch has been waiting impatiently for you. Please take your seat opposite her at the table. Actually, let me read episode 1 first, just to give us the context and the change of feel between the first and the second episode. Welcome to Rokenjima. The Golden Witch extends her heartfelt greetings. Before anything else, please make yourself at home. There's nothing to think too deeply about. Just be silent and take in the events in their entirety as they unfold. That is all that is asked of you. The difficulty is standard. Let us at last begin on the trodden road. So episode 1, no thinking, just observe what's there, keep all of it in your head. That was episode 1. Episode 2. Good morning, the Golden Witch has been waiting impatiently for you. Please take your seat opposite her at the table. Have you rested well? Have you deliberated over how you will play? The witch has high expectations of you and is determined to come at you right from the opening. I too am looking forward to observing your moves. The difficulty level is first rate. The witch plans to make you surrender in an instant. Chess metaphors continue. She's been waiting here. She has a plan of attack. Do we have something? Probably not, but let's dive in anyways. The story is undoubtedly nothing more than fantasy. It could not possibly have any relation to real persons, organizations, places, or events. Standard intro. So for those of you who forget, Shannon is the maid. George is the eldest son of the middle of the second oldest child, actually. Do I have the full character list? No, just them. Oh, but they're in like date clothes. This is where the sad face actually came from. Shannon found a pair of hammerhead sharks playfully swimming in the tank, and made a fuss like a grade schooler seeing an aquarium for the first time.
本当に可愛いね。食べちゃいたいくらいだよ。
そんなのかわいそうです。知ってますか？水族館に来て美味しそうなんて言い出すのは世界中でも日本人だけなんだそうですよ。
そうなんだ。アメリカ人でもイタリア人でもきっと食べちゃいたいって言うと思うよ。
その
似合ってるよ。その服。本当に。
Her straps here match this little cross on her bag. Shannon embraced her chest with both hands in embarrassment. She apparently felt like she was being made fun of for wearing these clothes that she wasn't used to. Even though George's face didn't show it, the truth was that he was surprised at how easily those tremendous words had left his lips. And was embarrassed as Shannon on the inside. I don't see these hammerhead sharks you were talking about, just saying. However, when he saw how embarrassed Shannon was, he started to feel as though he was teasing the girl he liked. Instead of embarrassment, ticklish amusement welled up in him. Wait, that isn't just a feeling. I really am teasing the girl I like. Pains me to admit it, but I used to think that such embarrassing expressions had fallen so far out of use they no longer showed up even in manga. On the contrary, if I'd seen a couple acting like that, I'd have felt like throwing rocks at them. However, even if rocks were thrown at us now, I'm sure they would be just like confetti celebrating us. Now I can't even remember those lonely days. and I felt jealous of couples who were completely oblivious to their surroundings. To use an old-fashioned phrase, these would be truly rose-colored days. I was so entranced that I no longer even noticed the big tank of the world's largest aquarium. You cannot throw things in this chat. Instead, I only saw Shannon happily playing with the fish, all of her changing emotions showing on her face.
すごいですね。クジラを泳がせることができる大水槽なんて。
この大水槽がここの最大の売りだそうだからね。なんでも世界で最大なんだそうだよ。
そうなんですか。それはすごいですね。本当に素敵です。水槽じゃなくて、まるで海の一部をナイフでスッと切り取ってここに運んできたみたい。
そうだね。これはもう立派な小さな海だね。
Despite its size, I hadn't thought of the tank as anything more than a tank. So I thought her expression of it slicing off part of the sea with a knife was so interesting. No matter how far humans broaden their experiences, in the end they can only hold a single personal worldview. Maybe that's why it's so interesting to interact with someone who has a different worldview. I said that to her honestly, and she responded,
確かに、これは本当の海ではないかもしれません。でも、ここに泳ぐ彼らが海だと信じたなら、これは確かに海なんです。
たとえ有限の水槽の中だったとしてもね。
海だって有限ですよ。仮に無限だったとしても、私たちは生きているうちにどれほどの広さを行き来できるんでしょうね。きっとそれは海よりずっと狭い。
確かに皮肉な話だね。世界はこんなにも広いのに、僕たち人間のほとんどは自分の国からも出ずに生涯を終える。
Remember, this is in like the 80s.
そこが完成された世界だと信じられるなら、たとえ狭い井戸の底だったって立派な世界で海なんです。
This is possibly a reference to one of the poems in
そこ
Higurashi.
に住むカエルにとっては。
I can't remember which one it is, if it's poem 6 or 7. But the idea is that if you were a frog living in the bottom of a well, that is all the world you know, and you don't even realize you're living inside of a well because you have no concept that there is something outside of it. Shannon, who spent her days as a servant on a small island 10 kilometers in circumference called Rokenjima, said that with a smile. Okay, we're getting opening credits. So if it's been long enough that you've forgotten the names of characters, yeah, we won. We beat the game. We defeated the witch. We convinced her she's trapped in the sea. Yeah. And I think the poem then goes on to say, and you two were also happy, for you also did not know what went on outside the well. Which is probably one of the earlier ones. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's probably one of the earlier ones. It's the concept that also, like, ignorance is bliss, is essentially what it's getting at. That if you don't realize that there's a lot more to this world than what you can see, then you're just going to be, you know, happy or sad or whatever with the world that you know. After we finished walking through the whole aquarium, we had a slightly late afternoon lunch at a restaurant with a nice view. Any boy's heart would jump at the sight of a buffet. I myself was like that in the past, but with Shannon beside me, this buffet felt different. I couldn't shamefully make a huge pile of nothing but my favorite foods. I was, how should I put it, worried about my appearance, and chose a menu suited for a snob: toast, salad, and coffee. If I were by myself, I'd have made a pile of greasy stuff like yakisoba, it's a type of noodle, mashed potatoes, gratins, and the like.
シャノンはそんな程度でお腹が
So
足りるのか
carbs.
いだとしたら男ってのは本当に燃費の悪い生き物らしいね。
別にそういうつもりじゃなくて。
On Shannon's tray there was only tea and salad. Maybe the very idea that she could get away with at least one more dish indicated I was thinking with my male
ジ
stomach.
ョージ様こそそれで足りるんです
It's a
か？
buffet, can you not just go back and get more?
男の方はもう少し召し上がった方が良いかと思います。普段のジョージ様だったらもう少しお昼を召し上がられていると思いますよ。
しまった。そうか。シャノンには僕が本家で昼食をとるときどれくらい食べてるのかバレてるんだったね。
Smorgasbord.
はい、だから今日はお腹の具合でも悪いのかと思いまして。
Shannon was showing concern that I wasn't feeling well. Apparently I made her worry with my stupid attempt to impress her. In any case, it didn't seem like my stomach was going to let me keep this pretense up any longer.
いやもう白状するよ。ついついカッコつけちゃってね。女の子と一緒だからって遠慮しちゃって。
だと思いました。親族会議でのお昼の食べっぷりから考えて、それではとても足りないと思いましたので、遠慮なさらずにどうぞもう一皿を取りに行ってきてくださいな。
ずるいな。僕ばっかり恥ずかしいよ。じゃあシャノンはどうなんだい？普段からこんな小食で後ろ宮家のお勤めがこなせるのかい？
Shin grew silent and blushed bright red. Apparently, I wasn't the only one putting on a front. I realized that my embarrassment disappeared completely.
なんだ、シャノンもそれじゃ足りないんじゃないか。そうだよそうだよ。普段のランチならもう少し量が多いものをペロリと平らげてたよ。
女の子のお腹は魔法でできてるからこれでも。
ということは僕たちは互いに見えっ張りだったってことになるね。もう遠慮はなしにしないかい？
I smiled to show that I wouldn't make fun of her anymore and stood up from my
せっかく沖
seat.
縄まで来たのにゴーヤを食べないのはもったいないからね。
I hate bitter melon. So I didn't know what bitter melon was until maybe like a month ago. I hate it.
ゴーヤの炒め物でも持ってくるよ。シャノンも一緒に行こうよ。
So George can have all of it.
ほらほら。
To anyone watching us, we must have seemed like a pretty humorous and above all embarrassing couple. Yes, I also don't like okra. Okra's too slimy for me. Trying to think what else I will not eat. Durian. I hate durian. Although I feel like that's not a hot take. I'm not a fan of cucumbers, pickles, celery, olives. It's only after becoming a couple that you realize this banter means the world to us, and is our world. So no matter how cold the looks we might be getting from other people, we wouldn't even notice. I'm also not really a pineapple fan, yeah. Indeed, this age, I finally understand the feelings of couples who want to endlessly flirt without any regard to their surroundings. After I returned with a plate piled up with fried food, Shannon arrived with a lovely cake. Laughing at our fake stoicism, we resumed our lunch.
せっかく海を一望できる展望レストランなのに、あいにくの曇天が悔やまれるね。
Our window seats, which we were lucky to get, showed us seaside scenery so grandiose that it didn't even fit entirely within our field of vision. However, because of the cloudy sky, it was a far cry from its normal
そうで
beauty.
すね。晴れていたらさぞや真っ青な海を見せてくれた
Yeah,
でしょうね。
Okinawa, where they are, is like southwestern Japan. It's a popular like vacation like destination. As it's in the south, it's a bit more tropical.
そうだね。普段六軒島で海を見慣れてると思うけど、ここの海はきっと格別な青さを見せてくれたはずだよ。残念だな。
あ、でもお仕事の最中に見る海はどんなに青くても灰色と同じです。でも今日はお仕事中じゃないから、その
Apparently, Shannon was doing her best to say an embarrassing line, but I grayed harshly.
惜しいな。ジョージ様と二人きりで見る海なら、たとえ灰色でも真っ青に見えます。って言えたら、100点満点でご褒美だったんだけどな。
すみません。
ご褒美は何だったか聞きたい？
George, you have to like get ready to hide text on this stream.
その聞いてもいいものでしたら。
ダメ、教えない。
ずるいですよ。
When I was in elementary school, I was always the kid that got bullied. When everyone teased me, I grew nervous and speechless to the delight of the bullies. Back then, I wondered why everyone teased me. But now teasing Shannon like this, I understand why I've become the bully. This is so much fun. Remember, kids, bullying is fun. I can play with her emotions however I please. I can have them all to myself. Right now, I can't think of any higher pleasure. Which is exactly why I have to treat her lightly. I don't want her to get embarrassed and have a bad time, so I decided to end the topic there and then. Thank you for the quote. It's not good to be too persistent.
お昼が終わったら海岸を歩いてみないかい？ひょっとすると雲が晴れて素敵な海が見られるかもしれないよ。
そうですね。行ってみたいです。
うん、そうしよう。でもそのケーキも本当に美味しそうだね。僕も同じものを持ってこようかな。
いけません。お昼にそんなに食べた上にケーキまで食べたら太っちゃいますよ。ジョージ様は秀吉様の血が濃いみたいですから、気をつけないとおデブさんになっちゃいます。
じゃあシャノンは僕がおデブになったら嫌いになっちゃう？僕はたとえシャノンがおデブになっちゃっても嫌いにならないよ。
そういう意味じゃなくて、ちゃんと体を気遣わないと健康にって。
母さんにもよく注意されるよ。やっぱり僕も太極拳とかを始めて運動しないとダメかな。
ダイエットは無茶な運動よりも食生活の見直しから始めた方がいいんですよ。その上で運動を重ねないと効果が出ないんだそうです。
つまりそれはデザートのケーキは控えろってことだね。じゃあ仕方ないからシャノンがそのケーキを頬張るところを眺めていてあげるよ。
ケーキ丸々一つはさすがに食べ過ぎだと思いますけど、半分くらいだったら大丈夫かもしれません。これ本当に美味しいんですよ。
Shannon cut her own cake and tried to move half to my salad plate. I had to doubt that she wanted to share the flavor of the delicious cake with me. Even so, I deliberately and meanly pulled my plate away from her. She blinked her eyes in surprise. She couldn't seem to figure out if that was a refusal of the cake or not. I winked, opened my mouth, and said, "Ah."
それが一番したかったんですね。もうジョージ様は甘えん坊です。はい、
George, where are you looking right now, bud? While still wearing an embarrassed, exasperated face, Shannon offered the cake to me with a fork. Chomp. It tasted like cheap chocolate cake you could find anywhere. Still, it was exceptional. Because eating cake in such an embarrassing way, as if we were the ultimate stereotypical lovey-dovey couple, had been my dream for many years. Made this cake's flavor heavenly. If the Earth is destined to end someday, I wouldn't have had any regret if it happened right then. It was such a moment of bliss. After that, we gathered shells, ran from the waves, and enjoyed each other's company while walking along the beach. In the end, the clouds never parted. However, we both believed that our eyes were still reflecting a deep blue sea.
なんだか幸せすぎて怖くなります。
たまに言うね。何を怖がることがあるんだい？
私、後ろ宮家にお仕えする使用人です。そんな私が後ろ宮家に
I'm a sushi roll?
こうしてご一緒
What
して
type of sushi roll am I? And why am I a sushi
過
roll?
ぎたことのように思えて。
And are you sending me sushi? It's my family. I think I deserve to be with my family.
僕もびっくりしてるよ。シャノンちゃんと出会ったのは昨日今日のことじゃない。何年も前から面識もある。でも年に何度もない親族の会合の席で挨拶をするだけ。そんな君とこうして一緒に過ごせる関係になるなんて全然想像できなかったよ。
I was waiting to see if my dog would come and lick me, and then I would ask him what flavor of sushi I am. But he's off sleeping somewhere.
それはシャノンもで
Okay,
しょ。
so if pork cutlet bowl is what wins you the free skate, what does a sushi roll win you? The dive competition?
私はその
I totally did not read that last line. Okay.
想像だけはしてました。いえ、想像というよりは妄想みたいなもので、いつも紳士的で思いやりのあるジョージ様とご縁があったらなって妄想してただけで。
じゃあ僕たちの縁は君のその信じた心のおかげだね。
I'm trying to think then what would be the weirdest, like, Olympic sport. Okay, what food wins you synchronized swimming?
思う力には魔法が宿るんだよ。だからその魔法がきっと僕らを巡り合わせてくれた。
そうですね。多分きっとそれは本当に魔法だったんだと思います。
でもね、そんなことはないんだよ。僕の中でも毎年出会うたびに美しく見違えていった君の存在はとても大きくなっていた。そして君にとっての僕も同じものだとしたなら。
But coleslaw wouldn't? Okay, so I'm gonna say badminton. Hear me out. Coleslaw, at least to me, is a very like stereotypical like summer barbecue thing. And what do when you have a bunch of people at a summer barbecue? You play dumb outdoor games that no one's good at, except for maybe that one person in your family. And badminton is the only thing like that that I think is an Olympic sport.
今日ここに僕らがあることは必然の結
So
果
I
であっ
guess in
て、
theory, any barbecue wins you badminton. Hello, bedwards. Yes, I do like their outfits, and I do like that we can come here and we can view their whole outfit. Because we don't get to see like the little bottom of her skirt here and her little loafers. What does George have? He's got, I don't know, just generic black shoes. She stopped at the water's edge and gazed beyond the sea. I was bewildered by that slightly mysterious expression which I sometimes heard her use.
はい、魔法です。言っても信じてくれないでしょうから。今でも確かにその魔法には私とジョージ様を巡り合わせてくれる奇跡を叶える力がありました。
Let's take a step back here and remember that all of this is supposed to be Beatrice playing games for her amusement. Right? Because she said, I'm going to line up the chessboard for the next game. So does that mean she lets them be together to create more drama when they die?
それは何かのおまじないのこと？
そうですね。そういうものの類かもしれません。一つ違うのはおまじないなんかじゃなく、本当に本当の魔法だったという点です。
You come out swinging, but you gotta kill them before they even make it to the island. You're waiting for your opponent at the chessboard. Just steal their queen. That's what are they gonna do when they get there? They don't have a queen now. What can they do? Perhaps Shannon isn't alone in wanting to credit an encounter on a miracle or on chance. It might be a universal thing all girls share. For a man like me, an encounter with a girl is 70% effort to try to please her and 20% raw courage. 20% is also what I got in math, by the way. And only 10% chance. Okay, he made it there eventually. What she believes to be everything carries little relative weight within me. Yeah, go for it. So, for reference, Bedwards, I have watched the anime. This is my first time playing through it, but when I watched the anime, it was about 12 years ago, so I remember little bits and pieces. I know some of the twists, but not most things, and I'm sure, I mean, there's just no way you could encapsulate all of this into a, 12-episode anime? What she believes to be everything carries little... Oh, I read that line. Maybe that way of thinking is in itself calculating and typical of men. But were I to express that in words, any kind of magic would be broken. I do think that to become this close has taken many fortuities, concessions, and great efforts from us both. We have this private time together now only as the result of all those things put together. And if she wants to call that magic, that isn't strange in the slightest. That's why I answered her the way I did.
そうだね。同じ運命を100回繰り返したら、僕と君がこういう関係になる結果は、
Well, lucky for you,
一度しか起こらないものだ
George.
ったかもしれないね。
This is already time two that we know of.
互いを意識し合いながらも、僕たちは他人行儀な関係を今も続けていたかもしれない。
And Beardy's here blind in more ways than one. Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
そんなよその世界の僕らから見れば、
How is your eye
今の
doing,
僕
by
た
the
ちは
way?
まさに奇跡のような関係に違いないだろうから。
そういうのじゃなくて。
Yeah, we're before that. Yeah, that makes sense.
本当に魔法なんです。男の方にいくら言ってもこういうのは信じてもらえないんでしょうか。 カノン君も全然信じてくれ
The
ませんし。
Schrodinger's cat box. We don't know what's gonna happen until we open it up.
信じるよ。
Higurashi used the same metaphors as well. In fact, I think there was even a choice where you could choose to open the box, and the choice had absolutely no meaning. And if you went back and choose the other one, it actually called you out on it.
僕が信じなくて魔法が解けたら嫌だからね。
That's good to hear. I mean, it'd be nice to have some positive change, but positive options are better than no options or bad options.
ジョージ様。
In a small voice, I apologize for making light of her magic. Those words seem to make Shannon a lot happier. After all, if a pair of people believes in the magic of love, it becomes eternal.
そうそう。
I don't know what no items looks like, Samus.
No items.
Juggle I can do. Alright, let me go get the... Because I forgot about it, Samus. Okay. Juggling time. Me. I can juggle with no items if that's what people want. It's just gonna look like the worst air guitar you've ever seen in your life. Of course, you have to go behind the thing. Oh, I tried it. There we go. Oh. Tried to get it to stick on my head, but it didn't. Can you seal my cat tree? No. Cat tree you can get on Amazon. That's where we get it. Our cat loves it. The cat's actually in there right now. That's the cat right there. Let me go bug the cat, right? Not sure if you can see his little... Yeah, there's his little ears. But he likes it so much, we actually have two. We have one in here and one in the bedroom. So he can chill with us at night without worrying about the dog getting him.
僕からわがままが一つあるんだけど、聞いてもらえないかな。
Well, you've said that. Let me quickly turn off rewards that don't make sense. Let's turn off that. Okay, there we go. You really want to play this game, Samus's? So, Samus's was in here way before stream. Samus's was in here an hour before stream, subbing. She's subbed for 5 straight years. Samus's, I have told you many times, cancel that subscription. Do you listen to me? No. Also, there we go, there's that. 5 demi years. That's half a demi decade. You have had multiple demi years in this half demi decade. Semi demi decade to cancel that. And yet you haven't. Shame on you.
はい、何でしょうか。
そのジョージ様って呼び方嫌いじゃないけどもうなしにしないかい？
So if you remember in the first episode, he says, like, I've told you not to call me that before, so this is part of that.
もちろん後ろ宮家では対面もあるだろうから六軒島での普段まで強制はしないよ。でも二人きりの時はなしにしよう。うん、そういうルールにしよう。
ルールですか。もし破ったらどうなるんでしょう。
そうだね。ルール違反には何か罰ゲームがないといけないかもしれないね。そうだな。聞きたい？い
え、聞きたくありません。
何がいいか僕も考えておくことにするよ。
はい、ジョージさん。
うん、素敵な響きだね。嬉しいよ、シャン。
私もサヨという名前があります。
Okay, so we're learning Shannon's real name.
そっか。ルールはフェアじゃないといけないね。僕もそれを守って今から君のことをサヨと呼ぶことにするよ。
Does that change anything here? No. But Shannon's real name is Sayo.
いいね、サヨ。
はい。
I put my arm around her shoulder and held her close. Her delicate body was pulled irresistibly towards me, and she leapt into my chest like a doll. As I held her head in my arms, we looked at the horizon
真っ青な
together.
海だね。この海を二人で見られてとても嬉しいよ。
私もです。この真っ青な海をあなたと二人で見ることができて。
As we gazed at the gray sea and a light rain began to sprinkle down, we kept listening to each other's heartbeats. The sound of waves soaked into my ears. No, this was the sound of raging waves. My body, bathed in painfully cold splashes, did not allow me to forget. The memory of the day when my old fate was broken and smashed. In the past, tomorrow has been literally like a mirror to me. All I could see in it was the same me that existed today. My tomorrow would never be any different from my today. That was my old fate. But at that moment, for the first time, I saw a different fate beyond the mirror. The witch whispered. She tempted me to take a bite out of the fruit of knowledge. She tormented me, saying as long as I stayed in the paradise of God, I would remain furniture. And so I learned of love and decided to choose to become a person. Those days were like sweetly melting honey. But then I hadn't realized that they were the beginning of days filled with a new kind of suffering. Taking a motorboat that I'd just been told about, I made my way to this islet. No, I couldn't possibly call it an islet. It'd really be more appropriate to call it a reef. It had a torii and a small shrine for the local deity. It was probably built to worship the guardian deity of Rokenjima. Even though I didn't know the exact meaning, I understood that it had a holy significance. Despite being in a place like this, I took just one more look around to see if there was anyone observing me. The only thing I could see were the stormy ocean, Nijima looming in the distance, and the waves breaking against Rokenjima's steep cliffside. I readied myself, timidly approaching the shrine, and took up the mirror that had been placed there. It was an old-looking mirror, dim and dirty. If it were an ordinary mirror, that would probably give you a terribly bad impression of its value. However, since the mirror had been offered to this small shrine, that quality made me feel some kind of divinity from it. And I realized this was not merely a mirror. Even if it was nothing more than an old-looking mirror to a non-believer like myself, in actuality, it was a mirror that had an important meaning. Is it really alright to break it after being captivated by honeyed words? No, this is no mirror. This is the inescapable life I have lived until today, my fate. Break it. Break it and seize a life from beyond the mirror. If I don't break it, my life will forever be a pair of facing mirrors. Nothing will ever change in the slightest. The witch whispers. She tempts me to take a bite out of the fruit of knowledge. Or maybe I've already had a taste of that fruit, because I end up knowing those maddening emotions. Just as Adam and Eve felt compelled to pluck the fig leaf, I can no longer go without breaking this mirror. I fought with conflict for many days. Inside my heart, the virtuous part of me and the part that sided with the witch repeatedly fought against each other. And now, here I am. Did the part of me who is here win or lose? There is only one thing I know. To obtain something, you must be ready to lose something. The cowards who don't risk loss and never try to change anything will never be given the key to open the path to a new future. The key is already in my hands. It is to break this. To break it. Is there any other effort I can make? Is furniture imprisoned under Okanjima? No. There's nothing but this. Come, have courage. I'll free myself from being mere furniture. I'll accept my new sufferings and become human. These are surely the small and large trials I must impose on myself. Now, break it. Break the eternally unchangeable fate that imprisons me into pieces. I raised it high, thought back on all those days of conflict, and after a time, far too brief to do them justice, I finished my reflections and threw it. Okay, we're back to all the characters, and Shannon's back to having a painful tattoo on her thigh. So the only people who really talk about being furniture are Canon, and there was one other servant. Was it Genji, I think? So to me this sounds like it's either Genji or Canon. If I had to hazard a guess, I would say Canon. He seems the most resentful of this lifestyle, especially knowing what Shannon goes through as well. So of the two, I would say this sounds like Canon doing this to me. Watch it show us him right now as after I went into that monologue. The thunder roared, crying out against me for my outrageous act. It was truly the wrath of the angels preparing to banish me from eternal paradise. I looked down on the mirror, tumbling at my feet, broken in two equal parts. Having made sure I had accomplished my task, I looked up at the enraged sky and screamed. Oh, it's Shannon. Okay. The thunder roared once more. I had already been banished from paradise. I would have to struggle by myself in order to live. Which had said it. It's the single element of the world. To lose it means to lose the world. How a flask with a hole in the bottom can't be filled no matter how much water you scoop into it. An opening video. It usually has a banger, so I'll try to stay quiet. So before I get into that, there was definitely some scenes there you might have recognized from the first one. Also some probably foreshadowing. I saw Gold there. Lots of other characters that we have yet to be introduced to. There was also the scene with Maria in the the living room at the end. So lots of both past, maybe some foreshadowing that it's going to happen again. We'll have to see. I don't think we had this last time because I was playing a different mod in the first game when we hit the opening theme. So I don't think we had it quite like that. Also, if anyone is able to read what was on the record, I tried to read it. My brain could not follow it with it spinning, and it's only there for like 2 seconds. I'm assuming we're still Shannon, but I guess we'll see in a sec. My mind wandered. Back to the days when I could barely imagine the happiness I had today. I was a middle schooler at the time. An ordinary girl who dreamed about love, as is normal at that age. But I really should not have dreamed that dream, because I am furniture. Also, apparently this song was called Furniture, and it just sounds like a clock to me. Furniture is nothing more than a tool and is not human. You were at the human tea party, so checkmate. For a person less than human such as myself, just receiving education was more than sufficient happiness. So even thinking about love was more than I deserved. The Ushiromiya Family Conference was a customary event held every October. But relatives would occasionally visit at other times as well. Of course, they didn't come just to drink tea. On this day, Eva's family had visited the head family on Rokenjima. The 3 people from Krause's family and the 3 people from Eva's family had gathered in the parlor, having a friendly chat as they updated everyone on their situations. Genji had supposedly told Kinzo of Eva's family's arrival, but he hadn't come down yet. He was probably immersed in his own research and couldn't spare the time. This often happened, so the others waited patiently for their fickle father to come down. Yeah, Spider Kinzo will return. This sounds like it's before the actual family event still.
ありがとうございます。今は父の紹介でたくさんの人生の先輩方に本当に貴重な勉強をさせていただいています。そのいずれも学校では学べないことばかりです。
But I think it would be safe to say between the October year before and the October that we experienced in the last one. Yeah, his absinthe.
学校で習うのは国語算数やない。ものを学ぶ姿勢と態度を学ぶんや。その基礎ができて、ようやく生涯をかけた勉強が始まるんやで。ここをな、勘違いしとるやつは、生涯学べん石頭や。国語算数で満点取れても、会社じゃ役に立たへん。
全くその通りだよ。秀吉さんの教育方針はいつも本当にご立派ですな。
ジョージもまだまだ半人前や。それを常に忘れんで、勉強に励むんやで。
よしなさいよ、あなた。ジョージはいっつも一生懸命頑張ってるわよ。ねえ。
本当に立派ね。うちのジェシカにも爪の赤を分けてもらいたいわ。
まだテストの結果を根に持ってるのかよ。受験勉強は私なりにやってるって。こんな席でまで言うことはねえだろうよ。うせえぜ。
When George was praised for his diligence, the conversation nearly always turned to Jessica, who hated studying. Jessica made an openly displeased face as though she'd known it would come back to her.
やれやれ。ジェシカは勉強と一緒に少しはおしとやかな言葉遣いも学ぶ必要があるんじゃないかね。後宮家の家紋を背負う一人娘がそれではみっともないな。
あら、これはこれで魅力的よねえ。 時代は変わるのよ。男に食わしてもらうために定宿を装わなくてはならなかった時代はとっくに終わってるんだから。
そうそう、やっぱエヴァおばさんは分かってますね。
今日は頭痛が特にこたえます。
My headache's name is Jessica. It is very trying today.
大丈夫ですか？夏日おばさん、顔色が優れないみたいです。
Are you alright? Auntie, you look like shit.
ありがとう。でも本当に月日が経つのは早いものね。半ズボン姿で浜辺を駆け巡ってずぶ濡れになって帰ってきた日がついこの間のように思います。それはジェシカちゃんも同じよね。今じゃお化粧の仕方にだってこだわるレディーなんだから。眉にこだわりがあるのね。今日のあなたとってもキュートよ。
ありがとうございます。誰も気づいてくれなかったんで自信なくしてたとこです。
Are your eyebrows actually... Those her eyebrows, right? That she's talking about? Yeah. Your eyebrows look very similar. Or are you complimenting her eyebrows because they look like your eyebrows? A full smile rose to Jessica's face as the results of her own studies were finally noticed. Eva smiled back just as widely. Then she turned that smile towards Natsuhi.
ダメよ、夏日姉さん。自分のこの小さな変化にも気づかなくちゃ。かわいそうなジェシカちゃん。一番最初にお母さんに気づいてもらいたかったでしょうに。ねえ。
Is Mauka also a sushi roll?
いいんです、いいんです。
Alyssa can like Mauka. Find out.
あの人そういうの全然気づかない人なんで。
ジェシカ、母親をあの人呼ばわりとは感心できんね。謝りなさい。
言葉遣いについては後でよく言って聞かせます。
ちぇ、お子様は邪魔だってんならそう言ってくれよ。私は席を外させてもらうぜ。ここは空気がよどんでるぜ。
ジェシカ。
Jessica was still at that unpredictable age, with exams right around the corner. Recently, she had often clashed with her mom, who was enthusiastic about her education.
失礼いたします。
Jessica, making to leave the parlor in a bad mood, and Shannon pushing his serving cart loaded with tea bumped into each other.
ああ、シャノン。私の分のお茶はいらないぜ。私は庭でもほっつき歩いてくる。
お嬢様？
シャノン、お茶が冷めます。配膳を急ぎなさい。
失礼しました。
Shen hadn't actually done anything wrong, but Natsuhi felt like some shame to herself had been shown, lashed out at her emotionally. This was something that often happened in the Ushiromiya family. But it seemed that Shannon wasn't strong-willed enough to accept it that way. She shrunk back and nervously prepared the black tea. She had the unfortunate habit of making more mistakes when she felt intimidated. Her pitiful appearance dispersed the peaceful atmosphere that there had been until just a moment ago. That wasn't really Shannon's fault, but she thought she might be the source and felt a pressure on her chest. Her shaking fingers made the porcelain clatter, and you couldn't have called it graceful, not even as an empty compliment. The more pitiful everyone thought that was, the greater the silence grew. The more irritated Natsuhi looked, and the more Shannon cowered. Shannon's thin neck felt like it was being choked and suffocated by the death god called tension. Then George spoke cheerfully, as if to blow away the stiff atmosphere.
これはいい香りだね。何の紅茶かな？
これは。
言わないで。当てるから。これは特徴的な匂いだから多分わかるよ。アールグレイかな？
多分そうだと思います。
多分アールグレイで合ってるよ。台所に戻ったら紅茶の缶を見てごらん。
ほう、ジョージ君は紅茶に詳しいのかね？
お世話になっている社長さんに紅茶の詳しい人がいまして、講釈を聞いているうちに少しだけわかるようになりました。
ああ、おこのぎ食品の社長さんかい。あの人、そういううんちくは得意やな。
紅茶の名前って産地を示すことが多いんでしょ？じゃあこれはアールグレイという土地で栽培されたのが由来なのかし。
昔イギリスにグレイ伯爵という人がいたそうで、その人にちなんでつけた名前だそうだよ。ちなみにこの特徴的な匂いは茶葉のものではなくて、ベルガモットというみかんの親戚にあたる果物でつけたものなんだって。
そうなの。初めて知りました。そういう知識を持っていると紅茶もより美味しくいただけますね。
So Natsuhi likes to put on the appearance of she's the ideal host, nothing can go wrong. You should probably know more about what you're serving your guests then, if that's the image you wish to maintain.
酒もタバコも同じや。嗜好品はロマンをたしなむもんやで。こういううんちくが味わいを深めるんや。
薬の能書きと同じよね。夏日姉さんも愛用してる頭痛薬の説明書、今度はじっくり読んでから飲んでみなさいよ。
I mean, let's look at the characters. It's probably faster to say who doesn't suck. One, I don't think you can really blame kids. So the kids are immune from sucking. Kids have flaws, but they are not adults, therefore I'm exempting them. I like Hideyoshi. I think of all of these adults, except for maybe Kyrie, he's probably the best. Hideyoshi and Kyrie are decent people, I would say. The doctor seems fine. Genji seems fine. Again, the kids are alright. Gota's kind of a prick. And Chio's alright. She can be a bit of a prankster, but that's not, like, anything bad about her. Oh, dang, where's my murder button? I want to murder all the adults.
それはいい。今夜試してみなさい。
ええ、試してみます。
シャノちゃん、そのポットを開けてごらん。茶葉の中にベルガモットを乾燥させたものが混じっているのを見つけられるはずだよ。
Also, I just realized it wasn't that the song was called Furniture, it's that this chapter of episode 2 is called Furniture.
入っています。オレンジの皮を乾燥させたようなものが混じっています。
うん。多分これがベルガモットだね。アールグレイの香りの主成分だよ。匂いは鮮烈だから味がきつそうな印象があるけど、素直で飲みやすい味なんだよ。ミルクティーにすると香りもまろやかになって素敵かもしれないね。みんなに注いでポットに余った分があったら、ぜひミルクティーにして飲んでみるといいよ。
はい、ありがとうございます。
George gave her a small wink, and then finally realized that George had been doing her a favor by calming down the atmosphere in the room. He'd been doing it for her sake as she had lost her confidence. The Ushirimiya family did not pamper their servants, so if there was any awkwardness, they would be harshly punished. So it didn't often happen that they were given a helping hand like this. Thanks to George's concern, Shannon was somehow able to get a hold of herself and finish serving everything safely. I worry for you if you have to say, for once I was able to serve the tea safely. If she was calm when she worked, she would easily carry out her tasks elegantly and flawlessly. By the time the black tea was laid out on the table and the elegant scent drifted around, the room was completely back to how it had been, in a peaceful mood as everyone praised George's knowledge. Shannon wanted to thank him for saving her, but she didn't look like she would get the chance. So she at least thanked him inside her heart, praying to God that George would hear it, and push the serving cart away. If memory serves, and let's see if this is something that's here. I think it was something about, so they're from a nearby school, and I think it was something about the people with the best grades were given the opportunity to work here. So I don't think it had anything to do with them being like, you know, good servants or having good, like, you know, domestic skills. It's more about, you have a good head on your shoulders, we're giving you an opportunity to do something where you will gather connections that you can use outside of this to further your life. And they make a reasonable pay from it as they do it. Who are you talking to? Ah, Shannon. So it seems like for this start, anytime we're in like a first-person view, we've been Shannon so far. Or George. Shannon and Jessica could be seen in the Rose Garden. Jessica, having gotten into a fight with her mother, now felt unable to simply, nonchalantly wander back into the parlor, so found herself here, killing time.
思い返せば、こういう助けられ方をしたのは今回が初めてじゃない気がします。
Whenever I made a careless mistake and George Sama was there, he would always naturally smooth things over and make things harmonious, I think. Maybe it wasn't something as direct as picking up a fork that had been dropped, but that was his way of caring. Even servants have pride. They want to fix their own mistakes by themselves. Because if a guest helped them out with that, they would lose face.
そういう空気を読むのが得意なんだろうぜ。ま、ジョージ兄さんの美学なんだろうよ。あの人、妙に気ざったらしいところあるからな。
そんなことありません。とっても素敵な方だと思います。
ひょっとしてシャノン、ジョージ兄さんに惚れた？
Shannon had refuted Jessica's words uncharacteristically forcefully, so Jessica caught on immediately.
いえ、そういうことはないかと。
そういや、ジョージ兄さんってあまり浮いた話を聞いたことないし、あれ？確か家庭的な子がタイプだとか前に聞いたかな。そりゃいいぜ、シャノンぴったりじゃん。
Actually, if I go into the menu. Okay, so that's just real world time. I was curious if it had here anything like in-game world time, so we could see what the date is, and maybe we could infer how far ahead of the October meeting it is. Unfortunately, that's not the case.
私にはそんな資格ありませんし。
資格はあるぜ。
I don't know, but and it's only left click, so it's right click to open this menu. So if I click into character and then back out. Oh, is it literally only just clicks to advance this? So if I do this, click here. It is. This is literally clicks to advance text. Meaning that you could, in theory, ask... This is actually kind of ingenious. Imagine this. You are playing this and you have a question about something that's very spoilery. So you ask, hey, on line 14,942, what does Shannon mean by this? And you would be able to find it because there's a linear progression. Now, how that works is if there's multiple episodes with multiple, chapters. I don't know how the actual dialogue for this is broken down. I would really hope that they don't have all 8 chapters in just one ginormous file, but they might. This might literally just be used to tell you, if you load in, what line do you go to.
互いに男女であることを意識しないナチュラルな関係ってのは一度意識し始めるとトントン拍子らしいぜ。
And also worth knowing is that, and let me find a good example. Jessica loved teen magazines with these kinds of stories, and she was always on the phone talking excitedly with her friends about that kind of thing. So she had a keen intuition for this topic of this kind of romantic topic. This wasn't the first time a topic like this had been brought to Shannon, but it was certainly the first time she noticed George as a member of the opposite sex. She was furniture, and George was an honored guest connected to the Ushirmiya family. She had thought it impermissible to even imagine any deeper relationship. Okay, so this is before their date. So she hadn't thought about it. Jessica was taking immense pleasure in poking fun at this, since it didn't affect her. Shannon was doing her best to make sure her blushing cheeks weren't discovered. If George showed up at a time like that, there'd be no way she would be able to keep her cool. They saw George come out of the entrance hall of the mansion. It looked like he had seen them as well. He headed over, waving his hand. Okay, this might be a good one. So we're at 14958, right? Shannon had to frantically try to regain her ordinary composure before George reached them. Dang, it didn't do what I wanted. Oh, this one will. This one will. So we're at 14959. Grandfather finally came down. This is the same screen. This line of text is still here. But we've advanced to 14960. So not only is it line of text, it's how many clicks through this sentence are you as well. So if you specifically wanted to look at the first sentence here versus the second, that's also tracked.
そりゃ抜け出して正解だよ。じい様の顔を拝むくらいなら疫病神にキスした方がマシだぞ。
Oh gosh.
そんな言い方は悪いよ。ただ、おじい様は僕らのことを疫病神だと思っているかもしれないね。何しろ、事業用にお金を借りたいという。
That's right, this wasn't the customary annual October family conference. Eva's family had visited to apply for a business loan from the main family. Kenzo had vast resources, and he lent those out to his children. Of course, this was not money to lend because they had gotten themselves into financial trouble. How would they expand their business using the vast amount of money that they had borrowed? How much interest would be attached, and how soon could it be repaid? This wasn't a loan for the have-nots. This was a loan for those who were on the offense. Kenzo judged strictly whether it was worth lending out his fortune, and afterwards he strictly oversaw its use. There was occasionally the spectacle where relatives visited Rokonjima and explained their business to Kenzo. So they're on Shark Tank. Kenzo is the OG Shark Tank. To the parents, it may well have been a meeting concerning the movement of large sums of money, forcing immense stress upon them. But to Jessica, who lived on this isolated island called Rokonjima, it was a precious opportunity to meet up with her cousins. So even her bad mood from getting into that fight with her mother was immediately cured by this chat with the infrequent visitor George.
金なんて余ってるんだろうから暇よく貸してやりゃいいのによ。うちの親父もじい様もどうせねちっこくもったいぶってんだろうぜ。
お金を貸すとき慎重になるのは当然のことだよ。もちろんうちの父さんも借り入れた分で事業を拡大し、しっかり返却できるプランを持って訪れてる。あとはプレゼンテーション次第ってところだろうね。本当は脇で見させてもらって勉強したいんだけど、母さんに追い出されちゃったんだよ。 ちょっと残念かな。
親方様はクラウス様やエヴァ様のことを今でも子供の頃と全く変わらないように叱られる、そんな姿を息子のジョージ様にきっと見せたくないのでしょう。
Glad to see he scolds people. Okay, I've just bumped up Kinzo in my books. He's a little bit better now that I know he scolds people. As Shannon hung her head, she thought back to those scenes where she'd grown used to seeing while working in the mansion. Even Krauser acted haughtily towards his siblings, still treated like a child by Kinzo. Yeah, uncle's bad, grandfather's good. I mean, let's look at this. I mean, I guess Hideyoshi is good, even though he's our uncle. But he's not. He's our aunt's husband. Maybe uncles are fine if they're not uncles by blood. Oh no, but in Uncle Hunter, isn't the aunt the one who's the biologically related? I think it is. Dang it. I might have to rethink hunting uncles. What happens if your uncle is a grandfather? But he's not your grandfather, he's your uncle. Because, like... Thank you for the quote. If you are one of these kids, let's say you're Rudolph. Kinzo is your dad. As soon as someone has a grandkid, so as soon as George came to the picture, he's now a grandfather, but he's still your dad. Is he better now that he's a grandfather? No, he's still your dad. And yes, the bloodline is cursed. Shannon herself had often seen Kinzo slapping Krauser, making him sit Seiza style. We'll have to look up that one. Is that where you have to like sit on the kneel on the edge of a thing and it's painful? Seiza is a traditional Japanese manner of sitting used for formal occasions where respect is demanded. To sit in Seiza style, you kneel on the floor on a cushion with your legs folded under your thigh. Okay. It's like a tea ceremony sitting. The tops of your feet entirely flat on the floor and big toes overlapping. Yeah, this sitting on my legs like this without the toes overlapping is already uncomfortable for me. It cuts off my circulation. There's a modified version of this I know some people use as like a punishment for kids, where you do this but you have the kid kneel on the frame of a door. So you know how like doors sometimes have that like little lip on it, and that bites into your legs. Would not recommend. So if I had a kid and they were my brother and they had a kid, I'd be an uncle, but that's alright because I'm not your uncle. Okay, let's see. So is someone only bad if they are your uncle and they are good to you otherwise? For example, if Kraus is our uncle, he is bad, but if he meets someone at his fancy schmancy yacht club, he is a friend or a business partner. Can we chat quote Beardy giving birth to his own uncle, please? But yes, I think it is. You will perceive them as bad if they are that relation to you, or good if they are that relation to you. It might be no spaces for that one. Sorry, it's add chat quote no spaces. Yeah. Thank you. That's how you gave birth to your own uncle. You docked with your friends. It was probably deeply humiliating to have that forced upon him at his age. In the Ishirome family, taking care not to be present when this happened was one of the greatest tasks of the servants. Of course, that did mean that Shannon had been making mistakes by being witness to it.
そうだろうね。
Thank you.
それを察して姿を消すのも子供の務めかな。それにしても今年もこの庭園の花は本当に素敵だね。
George stretched as he said that, and truly effortlessly he changed the subject away from something that had become a little gloomy. This time, Shannon noticed it too. This person George was highly sensitive to the mood of a group, and was always caring enough to change the subject to something harmonious. It had been so smooth that Shannon hadn't noticed it until today. Today, Shannon had to really admire that behavior of George's. Almost all of the boys Shannon knew of her own age were her classmates during her education. But they were all immature, and none of them had had the composure that George did. Even though he'd been just another guest until moments ago, now she couldn't describe him with just that. That was idle thinking, irrelevant to her work as a servant. Shannon tried to chase it away with a small shake of her head.
どうしたんだよ。
いえ、何でもありません。お茶のご用意をしましょうか。先ほどのアールグレイを改めて。
紅茶の名前覚えてくれたんだね。嬉しいよ。
さっきはお気遣いはありがとうございました。
Shannon was finally able to put her thanks into words. If you wrote them on paper, they wouldn't seem like much, but Shannon had needed just a little courage to say them out loud. But George played dumb.
何のことだい？お礼を言われるような覚えはないけど。
It seemed he was being a gentleman in his own way, saying that he hadn't helped her because he wanted to be thanked. It seemed that George's response had been more or less predictable to Jessica. She burst out laughing uncontrollably.
なあ、こういうところ気ざったらしいだろ。
いえ、そんなことは。
Jessica made fun of Shannon as she remained silent, red-faced. George didn't know the details, but he naturally joined in, laughing the same way. The three of them lazily walked around the garden, talking about what was new. George, as the oldest cousin, talked about his life experiences. Jessica talked about recent life on Rokanjima, and Shannon talked about her recent work. These silly little topics went round and round in circles. Even when the other stories had been fascinating, Shannon had never felt particularly connected to their contents. She was nothing more than a servant, and she had no intention of delving into her master's lives. She simply wanted them to enjoy their time speaking with her. She was only pretending to listen intently and nodding at the right moments. But for some reason she found talking with George deeply interesting today. Even for things that she would normally ignore, she felt like she could feel a kindness hidden beneath the words. For some reason she wanted to know more things about George, no matter how trivial. So she stared fixedly at him. She thought that as far as looks went, this person, Ushirimiya George, was probably about average, and he didn't really stick out. But he was diligent, serious, and deeply thoughtful in a way that allowed him to understand people's hearts and care for them. But she'd never been aware of these things until now. She might not have met him many times, but she'd known his face for many years. Even so, she'd not noticed once until now. So Shannon felt ashamed of this, and her cheeks went red. So, who's ready for the inevitable downfall of this couple as they get brutally murdered this episode? maybe George thought that Shannon was appreciating him talking about himself because he continued to relate his personal stories. But Jessica didn't miss that slight change in Shannon. So she turned the discussion around the topic Shannon wanted to hear about most.
そういやさ、ジョージ兄さん、いい加減に彼女とかはできたわけ？
なんだい、やぶから棒に。
Normally, George's reaction would have been answer enough, but for some reason, as she was now, Shannon found herself unable to understand it unless he said it clearly.
そのジョージ様はお優しいですから、さぞや表になるだろうと。
いや、
よせよシャノン、そういう追い詰め方はかえって意地悪だぜ。
私は別に意地悪のつもりは。
嬉しい勘違いをありがとう。残念だけど、特定の一人の女性とはまだご縁がないよ。
I have a relationship with a non-special girl.
見ての通り、容姿も並以下だからね。女の子を楽しくさせてあげられるような気の利いた話術もないし。
そんなことないと思います。それに男性の魅力は容姿では測れないところで決まるんじゃないかと思います。だからジョージ様はとても魅力的な男性じゃないかと。
Shannon was uncharacteristically verbose. Compared to her normal self, she was being very wordy indeed. George looked fairly pleased about hearing his own charm described, but he was just a little surprised at this high praise. Jessica, sure now that her own imagination was right on, acted as though she could barely hold back her laughter.
ありがとう、シャノンちゃん。僕に魅力を感じてくれるような寛大な女性に早く巡り会いたいね。
きっと巡り会えると思います。ジョージ様の本当の魅力に気づいている女性は、いえ、大勢いらっしゃると思いますよ。
You probably wanted to say, there's a girl not very far away. She avoided saying that much, drawing a final line as a servant.
そうかな。さすがに照れるね。
Maybe he'd never been praised this much by a girl. George's face turned as bright red as Shannon's. As she watched the two of them, Jessica giggled sadistically.
ジョージ兄さんもやがては素敵なパートナーと出会うだろうけどさ、今のままじゃきっと上手にパートナーをエスコートできないと思うぜ。勤勉でいらっしゃるようだけど、そっちのお勉強はからっきしみたいだしよ。
悪かったね。その勉強はこれから少しずつしていくよ。
相手もいないのにどうやって？恋愛映画でも見る？それとも秀吉おじさんに習う？
まるで鬼の首でも取ったみたいだな。こういう話では男は女の子にかなわないね。
Normally when George and Jessica got together, their parents would say George's diligent and admirable, and Jessica's lazy and rude. So it was probably irresistible fun for Jessica when the roles were finally reversed. George also realized that, so this time he was content with being the one who was teased.
ジョージ兄さんさえいいならさ、シャノンでちょっと練習してみたら？シャノンを一日退屈させずにデートに連れてくんだよ。どうよ？
そんなお嬢様。
When she heard Jessica's audacious plan, Shannon's face turned bright red, and a donut of smoke rose from it with a poof.
それはとても魅力的な提案だけど、シャノンちゃんに悪いよ。彼女の貴重な休日を奪うだけじゃない。彼女が本当に思いを寄せる人と二人きりで過ごす聖域に僕が割り込んでしまうことになる。そんな無粋なことはできないね。
私も思い人とかそういう人はいませんので、そういうお気遣いは、はい、無用なのです。
Shannon's blood had all rushed to her head, and it looked like she didn't even know what she was babbling about. Jessica, who knew how Shannon normally was, seemed to find that really comical. She couldn't hide her cackling laugh anymore.
そうなのかい？シャノンちゃんみたいな可愛い子が独り身なんて信じられないね。
私使用人ですから、その男の方との縁なんてありませんし、その。
ってことはシャノンも将来素敵な男性を射止めるために交際の練習が必要だってことじゃないのかよ。つまり二人とも互いの思惑は一致するわけだ。なるほど、こりゃいいぜ。
Jessica irresponsibly cheered the two of them on. Now George was also hanging his head, red-faced.
ジョージ、さっきから呼んでるわよ。聞こえないの？
Since Eva appeared in what was already an embarrassing situation, both of them became even more flustered. Jessica was in stitches.
母さん、ごめんよ。話が込み入っちゃっててね。気づかなかった。
これはエヴァ様、大変失礼しました。
若い子たち同士で大層盛り上がってたみたいね。あなたたちもみんなお年頃だもの。そういう話題が尽きないのもよくわかるわ。
嫌ですね。エヴァおばさんだってまだまだお若いじゃないですか。秀吉おじさんとの馴れ初めを聞かせてくださいよ。
あら、そんなの言えるわけないわよ。本当にみんな若いんだから。
How did you meet that you can't tell them?
それで何、母さん、用があって声をかけたんじゃないの？
お父さんたちの話が終わったわ。おじいさまにあなたの話をするからいらっしゃい。
僕の話？何の話かな？
今みんなでしてたのと同じ話よ。ほら、例の話。
あの話かい。別におじいさまに話すようなことじゃないんじゃないかな。
何の話だよ。まさかジョージ兄さん。
Are they arranging a marriage for him? I mean, that would be something that a prominent family might do.
それはおめでとうございます。
違うよ。特定の女性はいないってさっき言ったじゃないか。
威張ることじゃないでしょ。まったく。
Eva smiled bitterly, looking a little exasperated.
わかった。ジョージ兄さん、あれでしょ。お見合いだ。
お見合いですか？
まあね。
As a man, George undoubtedly wanted to find a partner by himself and carry her off himself. It seemed like he found the idea of meeting his partner for the first time in a marriage meeting arranged by his parents to be a little pathetic.
お見合いというのはもっと年齢が成熟してからするものじゃないの？僕はまだ一人前になったって自覚すらないというのに。
もちろん、即結納即結婚なんて焦る気は全然ないのよ。親睦を深めて、年齢的にもう少し落ち着いてから籍を入れる形でも問題ないの。
From the forceful impression Eve was giving, and George's evasiveness, it seemed you could catch a glimpse of how this marriage meeting linked into everything. Who this other person was remained unclear, but it was surely someone profitable to Eva's family in a business sense. It felt almost like a political strategy. They wanted to create a connection between the two families, if not by changing registers, at least by having them get engaged.
結婚はね、好きになってからするものじゃないの。してから慣れることよ。感情だけで結婚すると必ず後悔する。身元のしっかりした人を生涯の伴侶に選んで、それから愛情を築いていくのも決して間違ったことではないの。
エヴァおばさん、それじゃ秀吉おじさんに悪いですよ。
私はあの人のこと大好きよ。いつまでも一緒にいて人生を共にしていきたい。
エヴァ様、素晴らしいです。本当にご立派です。
ありがとう。でもその気持ちは二人で夫婦をしていくうちに育んだものよ。 そして今の私たちより未来の私たちの方がもっともっと仲良しだと信じてる。私は夫婦はそういうものがいいと思ってるの。
だからって好きでもない相手と結婚してもいいって論法にはならないと思うけどな。
だからって好きな相手なら誰と結婚してもいいという論法にはならないわ。結婚は一瞬。でもその後の夫婦生活はずっとずっと長いの。だから一時の感情に任せず慎重に相手を探すべきなの。
So remember, they had all of this discussion before George inevitably proposes to Sayo.
そしてそれは人生経験の未熟なあなたよりお母さんたちの方がうまくやれるとは思わない？
それはそうかもしれないけど。
あなたは私の自慢の一人息子よ。どこへ出しても恥ずかしくないくらい立派に成長してくれたわ。バトラ君は席を抜け、あなたが今やお
Oh
父
yeah,
様
Brown
の血を引
Battler
く
had
唯一の
officially
男孫。
left the family. And since we're doing the thing where typically only men can stay in the register, although Eve is an exception, he got pissed off at his father and essentially left the family. And so by doing that, he got cut off from the register, which I believe means he cannot inherit anything directly.
あなたにふさわしい相手は
Because he
慎重
cannot
に
be
選ば
on
なく
the
てはなら
family
ない。
register. As everyone related to the Usremia family knew, Eva adored George so much that he was the apple of her eye. But that didn't mean she had pampered him. She'd raised him strictly, and he'd grown into a charming man who wouldn't betray her expectations. That's how he was the apple of
あ
her
なた
eye.
の相手は決して母さんたちの損得で決めてなんかいないわ。あなたにふさわしい本当に素晴らしい女性に母さんが合わせてあげる。今はあなたの中にある青臭い若さがそれを疎むかもしれない。でもこれだけは母さんの言うことを聞きなさい。私があなたのためを思わなかったことが一度でもある？
This is how Tangled starts.
それはないけど。
今はそれで結構よ。さあ行きましょう。お父様を待たせてるわよ。急いで屋敷に行きなさい。
じゃあごめんね二人とも。また後で。
George bowed to the two of them. After bowing once more to Shannon, he dashed off to the mansion.
じゃあおばさんも行くわね。楽しい話を打ち切っちゃってごめんねジェシカちゃん、シャノンちゃん。
いえいえ、気にしないでください。じゃあシャノン、私たちは行こうぜ。
はい。
大丈夫よ。ジェシカちゃんだってきっとそのうち素敵な出会いがあるわよ。ジェシカちゃんにふさわしい素敵な方がね。
私と同程度ってことは成績の悪い男かな。なんだかうぜえぜ。
もちろんシャノンちゃんにもね、あなたにふさわしい素敵な男性がきっと現れるわよ。
はい、ありがとうございます。
As Eva giggled and smiled, she approached Shannon's ear, the hand over her mouth, as though she were trying to tell her a secret.
使用人風情のあなたにぴったりの相手がきっと見つかるわよ。
Well, you thought it was manipulative and toxic. Hold my beer. What is this garbage?
義務教育に行かせてもらった恩も忘れて。
Hope you're ready to hate Eva even more.
身の程を知りなさい。
そ んなつもりは私
And keep in mind, she says this to Shannon, and when George proposes, Shannon still says yes.
ジョージはお父様の血を引く孫の中では嫡男に当たるのよ。ひょっとしたら未来の後ろ宮家を背負うことになるかもしれない人。その期待に応えるためにたくさんの勉強を重ねて素晴らしい大学に入り素晴らしい成績を残しているわ。そんなジョージと無能無資格無教養な使用人風情が釣り合うと本気でお思い？
Those malicious words all poured into Shannon's ear without spilling a drop. To Shannon, it was like cold water was being poured in there.
私はそんなつもりは
This was all whispered in secret, and with the same smile as before. Jessica, who could only see Eva's expression, didn't think it was anything other than Eva telling Shannon some embarrassing story about love. But when their secret conversation ended, Eva patted Shannon's shoulders, as though to underscore her message.
大丈夫よ。あなたにぴったりのお相手がきっと見つかるから。ね。じゃあね、ジェシカちゃん。また後でね。
はい、また後で。秀吉おじさんとの話、その時聞かせてくださいね。
いやよ。
Eva laughed dryly and headed back to the entrance hall. Behind Jessica, who was cheerfully waving her hand, Shannon reflected very, very deeply on those words of Eva's about knowing her place. I felt deep remorse for my brief moment of conceit. I'd forgotten I am furniture. Furniture isn't human. So I'm a being who must feel gratitude for even being treated like a human. And I'm not permitted to wish for anything more. Even if people develop affection for furniture that they're used to using, that is an emotion on the human side, and the furniture has no right to hope for that. They should just serve with simple honesty every day. That feeling I felt when talking with George-sama and Jessica-sama is a forbidden drug for me. In other words, it may have been an emotion I must not know.
シャノン、先ほどからぼんやりが過ぎます。体調でも悪いのですか？
いえ、失礼いたしました。
Natsuhi's words, too distracted, were right on the mark. Even Shannon couldn't believe that she hadn't noticed Natsuhi until she had been called. This was supposed to be the time when she had to concentrate on the cleaning. But she just kept sighing and hadn't accomplished
たとえ
anything.
お客様がおられなくても、常に気を張っていなくてはなりません。そんな様では、後宮家に仕える使用人として情けありませんよ。
はい、以後注意します。
もうじき、当主様と主人がお帰りになられます。書斎の清掃は済んでいますか？階段の清掃は済んでいますか？
申し訳ございません。まだです。
ええ、ですから、ルノンにやらせておきました。
We have a new name, Lunon. They don't appear here.
あなたがもたもたと廊下を清掃している時間で、彼女は書斎と階段の清掃を済ませてしまいます。
それは、丁寧にお掃除をしていたから、時間がかかってしまって。
Shannon was simple and honest, so she'd always carry out her tasks seriously and properly without any omissions. She was always slow with her work. In contrast, Lunan skillfully cut corners where they should be cut, so she could complete her jobs with a result that looked similar to an outsider but in a much shorter time. In other words, she was shrewd. Compared to her, we should say that Shannon, who had just talked back to Natsuhi when she was already in bad mood, was not shrewd in the slightest. Of course, there was nothing that Natsuhi couldn't stand more than the servant talking back. Her forehead creased, and she spoke sternly. And yet her speech was slow and admonishing, which was terrifying beyond measure, and finally made Shannon realize she had said the wrong thing.
ならば、 存分に丁寧な清掃を心がけなさい。シャノン、あなたにこのまま大広間の清掃も命じます。当主様の大切な絵画が多数飾られ、後宮家への賓客をお招きすることもある。誇り一つ残さないよう、あなたが納得するまで丁寧に清掃なさい。もちろん今日中にです。それを終えて私に報告するまで食事も休憩も許しません。わかりましたね？
Can we eat the rich yet?
はい。
結構。使用人はその言葉だけを口にするように。次の口答えにはより厳しい罰を与えますから、よく胸に刻んでおきなさい。
はい。奥様、ご指導をありがとうございます。
どういたしまして。
Natsui headed off down the corridor, making a gesture as if her headache was troubling her. Once Shannon couldn't see her anymore, she hung her head and sighed. This happened because I let my thoughts take me. I might be bad at everything I do, but I should at least be able to carry out the cleaning as well as an average person can, right? I can't even do that properly. It's so pathetic it makes me cry. And there's something even more pathetic. Not only was I unable to perform a single bit of cleaning well, but just now Natsuhi was scolding me. I was envisioning him appearing and rescuing me. If only George-sama had been here. Perhaps he would have casually stepped in and saved me. I'm sure he would have showed up cheerfully, intentionally acting like he doesn't know what's going on, nimbly changed the subject, making me forget I was ever reprimanded by Natsuhi. I kept envisioning him, suddenly appearing from the other side of the door, or the other end of the hallway. I envisioned the kind of person that would be an appropriate partner for him in a marriage meeting. And I envisioned how unfitting I am for him. Eva had told me that clearly. It had repeated endlessly through my dreams.
姉さんは相変わらず不器用だね。奥様は今朝から虫の居所が悪い。黙ってうなずいていればいいものを。
カノン君。
Canon was suddenly there. His footsteps were always quieter than the cat's, and he left no trace of his presence. She probably wouldn't have noticed him no matter how long he stood there. The expression on Canon's face was hatred. That expression he was making, he surely made for Shannon, who didn't know how to do so herself.
奥様も。そしてルノンも地獄へ落ちろ。あいつは奥様がどこをチェックするか知ってて、そこしか掃除しない。さっきの掃除もそうだった。見ていたから知ってる。本当の意味での掃除なんかしてないんだよ。丁寧に掃除する姉さんに寄生してるだけの最低なやつだ。
そんな汚い言葉を使ってはダメよ。汚い言葉はカノン君の綺麗な魂まで汚してしまう。だからせめて私の前ではそんな言葉遣いをしないでね。
Canon faced away, acting sulky. It was a dishonest reaction, very like Canon-kun, but I was a little happy. He got angry in my
大広間
place.
の掃除は大変だよ。僕も手伝う。
ありがとう。でも奥様に命じられたのは私だから大丈夫。カノン君にも自分のお仕事があるんでしょ。
汚らわしい仕事だよ。僕の魂なんてとっくに汚れてる。
Canon then hung his head and bit his
手
lower
伝って
lip.
くれるという言葉だけで私は十分。カノン君も自分の仕事に戻らないとあなたまで罰を受けることになっちゃう。そしたら私は悲しい。
Shannon knew Canon's character well. Sometimes he didn't reflect on himself. If I don't refuse forcefully, he will help me, even if it means neglecting his own job. Canon was a little sad that his favor had been rejected, but he realized that in the end, going too far would also cause her pain, and he gave a single small sigh.
わかったよ。姉さんも頑張って。
それに私にも責任はあるから。
姉さんには責任なんて何もない。
あるの。だからもう言って。
Canon's face showed that he still hadn't completely accepted it. He stopped being persistent and disappeared. Even though Canon couldn't give me words of comfort when I was down, even so I was still dejected because it hadn't been him. That was simply a sin. Far beyond any dream the likes of me could be permitted to see. Know your place. Shannon, who had neglected breakfast, was already starting to feel her thoughts attenuate. If she didn't finish cleaning the reception hall, she couldn't receive Natsuhi's permission to eat. The cruel Natsuhi had surely told the kitchen of that. I have to respectfully receive Madame's punishment. That's right. My position in the world is furniture, and I have been intoxicated by a dream that is beyond me. I finished cleaning the hallway and went to the reception hall. Maybe hunger makes the nose more sensitive. The kitchen was far away, but somehow I could smell the delicious aroma wafting from there, stimulating my empty stomach all the more. Until I finished up here, I could not get any soup. I just had to prepare myself. Several portraits were hung in the reception hall. One of the portraits was thought amongst the servants to hold a special meaning. It was the portrait of the witch. That wasn't its true name, but everyone in the mansion called it that. The name of the woman with elegant blonde hair drawn as the subject of that portrait was Beatrice. It was whispered that she might be the former mistress of the family head Kinzo, and also that she was the great witch who had given Kinzo his legendary gold. The witch Beatrice, master of the night on Rokkenjima. She was gracious to those who respected her, but also would always curse those who made light of her. It was in Shannon's character not to neglect rules and beliefs such as those. So she thought of the portrait of her other master as that person herself, and always treated it carefully, treasuring it. It had become part of her daily routine to talk inside her own head to the witch who only existed inside the portrait. She was furniture. Furniture doesn't complain. Cannot complain. She had no right to speak her mind about her difficult days, no right to open her mouth and say those words. So, she at least spoke her mind inside her heart. Those words she couldn't say out loud, she spoke inside her heart, protested to the formless witch. Of course, the witch didn't answer. She never consoled, and never laughed it off. Shannon could only interpret that silence as she liked, although the witch was at least listening attentively.
ベアトリーチェ様、みすぼらしい私の話を聞いてください。
As Shannon wiped the dust from the witch's portrait, she spoke inside her heart.
私は確かにエヴァ様の言う通り、無能で無教養な家具です。人じゃない。だから、恋をする資格などないかもしれません。でも、だったら、どうして恋を知ることのできる心など。
Shannon paused there and held back her tears for a time. The sound of the rain which had started falling, along with the chill air in the reception hall, made her feel as though her shabbiness had increased another level.
本当の家具なら、心なんかない。だから、人を愛したりしなくて済むじゃないですか。だから苦しまない。私も同じ家具なのに。どうして心なんかあるんですか？こんな苦しくて辛い思いをするなら、こんな心なんて。
なるほど。家具に心を与えたか。あれも時には愉快なことをする。
The witch would never answered or laughed. Answered and laughed. My imagination? Hearing things? No. Hello, Obtuse, how's it going? After all, the next words became a voice, and I could hear them, not with my heart, but with my ears.
人間は世界を構成する元素について紀元前の昔から探求を続けてきた。古代ギリシャ人たちは風、火、水、土の4つで その後も数千年かけて人間たちは5代6代7代8代12代とさまざまな解釈で世界を説明しようとしたが
Is there a bad news?
唯一の真実である。しかし星の導きによって現れた一人の男が何かわかるか？
誰？
Shannon fearfully turned around. Right there, she existed. Not as an illusion, in reality. Contrast made by the lightning made it clear that this was not just a daydream.
それは愛よ。
The witch of the portrait elegantly held a golden pipe to her mouth and giggled. She laughed at the ignorance, which caused mankind's thoughts to stray far from the most simple answer.
その男は世界のすべてを愛で説明した。それこそが一なる元素。男は最小の数で世界の構成を説明しきったのだ。なんとも単純明快にして豪快爽快愉快痛快。やがてその男の生まれた年は西暦紀元と呼ばれるようになったがな。
Shannon lost any words to speak. She thought that when first meeting an unknown guest, her first words should ask that person's name. Without saying anything, Shannon knew this person's name, so she refrained. No, surely as a person of this island, asking this person for her name would have been the greatest disrespect. Because she was the other master of this island in addition to Kinzo.
ベアトリーチェ様。
いかにもわらわがベアトリーチェである。千年を経ても人がわらわを見て最初に浮かべる表情は変わらんな。
Beatrice is appearing very early in this arc. In fact, she's appearing before the last arc even started. The witch giggled at how Shannon's reaction didn't betray her expectations. Shannon realized that she had met with a being that mustn't be met with, and she took a step backwards. That's where the wall and the portrait were, so even as she gazed at the witch, she supported the witch's portrait on her back.
お前の悩みは愛ゆえよ。それはすなわち世界の一なる元素、つまりこの世のすべてだ。それが満たされぬということは世界が満たされぬに同じこと。それは穴の開いた水筒に水を汲み続けるのに似ている。
That is the second time we've heard scooping water into a flask with a hole in it.
くめどもくめども満たされぬ永遠の心の砂漠。
I believe Shannon says that, so that must be after this meeting with Beatrice, because they make a deal, it sounds like.
人間の基礎にして全てにして現在。わかるか？知識の実を口にしたアダムとイブが知ったのは愛だったのだ。それを知ったがゆえに人は楽園を追われ人足り得たのだ。すなわちそれは愛を知り苦しむからこそ人であること。心優しき娘よ、そなたは誇っていい。それを知った今、そなたはもはや家具にあらず。そなたは今こそ我が名にかけてそれを認めようぞ。凡庸の身には理解も辛き話か。
We are in chapter 2, the second question arc,
まあよい
right at the start. So this is before the events of the first arc even took place.
許すがいい。
It's been really good so far. The first one starts with a lot of fan service garbage that I could do without, but once you get into it, once you get into the actual like mystery and the mansion and the characters, I think it's pretty well written. I could just do without that maybe first hour and a half.
久しぶりに人間と話すのでな。
Chapter 1 is all on YouTube.
饒舌が過ぎたことを謝ろう。
Without expecting a reply from Shannon, Beatrice laughed pleasantly for a while. And if you go to YouTube, you can see the first episode of Chapter 1, where I was using a different mod, which didn't have all the voice acting, so I had to voice basically every character and say things that I really wish I didn't say. Looking at you, Battler.
わらわの力でそなたのその願望を叶えてやってもよいぞ。
The meaning of those words surprised Shannon even more than the witch's sudden appearance.
そなたを思い人と添い遂げさせてやってもよいと言っている。本来ならばそれに見合うだけの対価を要求するところだがわらわは機嫌が良い。それにそなたはわらわへの礼を欠かさず今日までよく尽くした。それへの褒美としてやってもよい。
本当ですか？
Normally, Shannon would be shocked by this guest, who lacked realism and wouldn't have been able to speak. However, as though she'd already been caught in the witch's trap, Shannon responded to the witch.
わらわの魔法にかかれば思い人と結ばれるように取り計らうなど造作もない。
You do mean it, don't you? Those words almost escaped Shannon's lips, but she held herself back with her final reserves of reason. A witch is a witch, a sinister being. The witch Beatrice is clearly trying to slip in through the cracks in my heart and take me prisoner. That sort of temptation, which so many fairy tale picture books had warned me about when I was young, was right in front of me now.
イフもまた敬いの一つよ。心地よくはあるがこれでは拉致があかぬな。わらわは確かにそなたらが意味嫌う魔女像から離れはせぬ。だがわらわは敬う者には好意を返す。それは人間も同じであろう。そのように身構えられて好意を返せる人間もまたおらぬと思うがな。
失礼しました。そんなつもりは。
Shannon finally realized that her hostility was rude to this guest. She finally digested the words that had been spoken to her a short while ago. You are no longer furniture. Now you are human. The more she reflected upon those words, the more Shannon felt as though Beatrice could understand all of her suffering.
さっきのその褒美の話って何ですか？
お前がその心を虜にする男と結ばれるように取り計らってもいいと言っている。わらわの肖像画を日々丹念に磨いてくれたことへの礼とでも思うがよい。安心せよ。対価は求めぬ。わらわは気前がよい。だがな、対価は求めぬが。
That seems like you asked for something in return. Look, here it comes. The other Shannon inside her heart sent her a warning. This is what she'd been so often warned of in those scary picture books she'd read when she was
こ
little.
の島のすぐ近くの海に岩が覗き、そこに小さな鳥居と祠が設けてあるのを知っているか？
Okay, this is what we saw before. Shannon immediately remembered it. When we reached Rokkenjima by boat, there was a torii and a shrine on a reef, which was too small to even be called an islet. She had the feeling that Kumasawa told her its history, but she couldn't remember that very well. A traveling mountaineering ascetic or aesthetic? No, I'm not sure of that word. Or someone had built it or prayed at it or something.
知っていますが、それが何か。
魔に通じぬものに一から説明はせぬ。早い話がだな。あれには参っておるのだ。実はな、あの祠の中にある鏡が収められている。それをそなたに割ってほしいというのだ。
That was a very suspicious request. Shannon didn't know its history, but anything that might be stored inside a shrine would have to be something sacred. Aesthetic. Okay, thank you. She wants me to break it? Why would someone as powerful as a witch be unable to do that herself and be asking a human for help? There's no need for Shannon to speak her thoughts aloud. Beatrice started talking about this reasonable question before Shannon could give her
あの
answer.
鏡の魔力は、わらわの魔力と相対する。人の言葉でうまく説明できぬな。例えれば、食器の違いとでも言おうか。あの鏡はフォークで、わらわの力はスープなのだ。フォークでスープは飲めまい？
No,
あ
with
の
that
鏡
attitude,
の
you
押し
can't.
付けさえなければ、わらわはスープを飲むのにぴったりのスプーンが用意できるというわけだ。それさえあれば、スープも飲めるし、岩ろうだって
You
掘
might
り
be
抜け
right,
るさ。
Samus is. Shannon might be the reason all of this starts. If breaking the mirror is what like removes the limit on Beatrice's magic, maybe Shannon does start everything.
貫ける。だったっけ。
何の話かわかりません。私の無教養のせいだとしたら謝ります。
こういうことだ。あの忌々しい鏡をわらわのために割る手間をかけてくれたなら、その褒美としてそなたの願いを叶えてやるということだ。今日のわらわは本当に機嫌がいい。そなたが望むなら願い事を変えて金蔵に授けた黄金を丸ごとくれてやることにしてもよいぞ。
お断りします。
なんと。
When she heard Shannon's words, Beatrice realized for the first time that her expectations had been
理
betrayed.
由があれば聞かせよ。誤解があるなら解こうぞ。
理由なんて、でも今日までこの島は平和で何も起こりませんでした。なら鏡を割らなくても今日までと同じ平和がこれからも続いていくはずです。
なるほどなるほど。そなたの言う通りだ。あれを割らぬなら割れぬ今日までと同じ日々が明日も明後日も続こうぞ。わらわが絶対の保証をしようではないか。ベアトリーチェの名にかけて言う。割れぬ今日までと同じ日々が明日も明後日も続こうぞ。それは永久に永遠に。
Shannon was seized by an eerie illusion. The mirror was most likely something to restrain the witch, so breaking the mirror should have been something done for the witch's sake, and yet it felt as though Shannon had to do it for her own sake. It felt like some premise had been
わ
switched.
らわはあくまでも褒美としてそなたに思いを成就する機会を与えたに過ぎぬ。割ろうが割るまいがそなたの自由だ。割ればわらわはそなたの願いを叶える。
I thought you were going to ask for anything.
割らねば今日までの明日が永遠に続く。そなたの願いは永遠に叶うことはない。
I feel like that's your catchphrase for this, Samus.
わかるか？何を
The witch was telling her she She was pressing her, saying to break the mirror if she wanted to be joined with George. She was declaring if she didn't break it, that her feelings would definitely never be fulfilled.
やめてください。そんなの聞きたくない。
そなたを苦しめたかったわけではないのだがまあ愛に苦しさを感じるも人間の醍醐味よ。その感情を存分に楽しむがよい。だが我が力を借りたいと願ったならいつでもあの鏡を割るがよい。そして我が名を叫び呼び覚ますがよい。わらわは必ず約束を守るだろう。
And we know Shannon eventually does just this.
そなたに今すぐの決断を迫るわけではない。気楽であろう。
Was this deal ultimately something she could feel at ease with? Definitely not. To Shannon, who was burning with love, tormented by passion, being tempted forever by a way of escape was far too cruel a
この約
trial.
束に期限は設けぬが、願いを叶える魔法には期限がある。その期限はわらわが決めるのではない。そなたの思い人が自ら決める。意味がわかるか？
わかりません。
そなたの思い人が愛のちぎりを結ぶべき相手を決めた時がその期限となる。わらわは魔女だが鬼ではない。
Not a demon. To be
互
determined.
いを愛し合う二人を引き裂く魔法は持ち合わせていないのでな。そなたの思い人は近いうちに見合いに臨む
So she's creating artificial
そな
pressure.
たは世界で一番その男のことを思っているかもしれん。だが世界で一番ふさわしいとは限らんぞ。わらわは見合いの相手を知っている。その娘は世界で一番後宮ジョージにふさわしい。良い学校を出て良い成績を残しお前より美しくお前より聡明でお前よりふさわしい。
This is like the opposite of the mirror in Snow
お前
White.
のような無知無能無教養の娘がどうしてふさわしかろうか。お前が一番知っている。お前が一番ふさわしくない。お前と後宮ジョージが結ばれるなど想像するだけでも罪深い。愚かしいことよ。愚
And
か
yet
しい
we're gonna
愚かしい
do it
のほど
anyways.
しい。義務教育に行かせてもらった恩も忘れて身の程を知りなさい。ジョージはお父様の血を引く孫の中では着眼に当たるのよ。ひょっとしたら未来の後宮家を背負うことになるかもしれない人。その期待に応えるためにたくさんの勉強を重ねて素晴らしい大学に入り素晴らしい成績を残しているわ。そんなジョージと無能無資格無教養な使用人風情が釣り合うと本気でお思い？
やめろ！シャノンをいじめるな！貴様は誰だ！
At that time, as Shannon held her head, trying to protect her heart from the blade of Beatrice's words, Cannon ran in front of her. Cannon didn't care who this woman was. As long as he knew she was an enemy tormenting Shannon, who he loved and respected as a sister, nothing else
カ
mattered.
ノン君、下がって。この方は。
Seeing that Cannon also realized that the being standing before him was the witch of the portrait, and also that she was a terrifying being.
シャノンに褒美を取らせたかっただけだが、わらわの言葉が過ぎ、いじめてしまったようだな。それは謝ろう。だが、先ほどの約束は、そなたへの褒美として残してゆく。わらわの力が必要ならば、その方法はすでに教えた。 ではこれにて今宵は退散しよう。敵意の眼差しは心地よくあるが美容にはちと悪いのでな。
ケロ、お前が何者か知らないが、お前はシャノンを脅かしている。二度と現れるな。
Seemed that Cannon's words made the witch horribly displeased.
言葉を選ばぬか下船め。わらわは敬う者に寛大だが
While she still smiled, the witch's expression began to warp. And an oppressive feeling that couldn't be described with any of the five senses gradually filled the room. Even though they couldn't comprehend what it was, they immediately realized it to be something terrifying. You were swimming in the ocean and something large went by in the water beneath you. You would want to escape to the land even before you learned what it was, if this was the same as that.
おやめください、ベアトリーチェ様。カノン君はまだ子供なんです。言葉遣いについては謝ります。
Cannon blocked the way to Shannon at the risk of his life. There was tense sweat on his forehead. In that moment, the witch certainly had Cannon's fate in her clutches. She didn't even need to move a finger. She had Cannon's fate so readily in her grasp that she could crush it completely with a single twist of her own smile. Cannon also understood that, which is why he was sweating, and his knees felt weak. However, Beatrice abruptly released that feeling of tension and laughed.
よかろう。そなたが求めるなら特別に許そう。カノンとやら彼女に免じて今宵は許して使わす。感謝するがよいぞ。さて今宵はこれで退散する。別れの挨拶に一つ土産を残そう。二人とも左手の手のひらをこちらへかざせ。
Beatrice grinned broadly and snapped her fingers, whereupon their left hands stretched out in front of them and their palms opened against their will. It was a strange sensation, as though only their left hands had become someone else's. It felt like their left hands alone had become puppets, pulled by strings hanging down from the ceiling.
これは何の真似だ。
Cannon resisted, but he couldn't take back the freedom of his left hand.
騒ぐな。すぐに済む。
Beatrice held her pipe aloft, and from inside the smoke, gold-colored sparkling dust hovered in the air. The glitter eventually became several golden butterflies. The beautiful butterflies danced freely throughout the reception hall, creating a fantastical and beautiful world. And two of those butterflies alighted on the palms of Shannon's and Cannon's hands. It was a sharp pain as though they'd been burned. When the two of them tried to examine their palms, there was no trace left of that inability to move their bodies, which had been there until a second ago.
あざ、これは。
On the palm of her hand, a small burn mark had been made, the size of a pea. Furthermore, it was shaped like a butterfly.
これは何の真
Take
似
care
だ。
of Deuce. We're going to be stopping soon, shortly, anyways, as well. Apparently, Cannon had the same bruise on his hand. He stared at the witch hatefully.
単なる挨拶よ。他はない。ただのあざに過ぎぬからほんの数日で言えよう。
You have a weird way of greeting
手当て
people.
も必要ない。それはわらわが確かに今日ここにあり、そなたと約束を交わしたことを明日に忘れさせぬための印だ。わらわとの出会いは刺激が強い。翌朝にわらわとの出会いを夢か幻と思い込み、
I
忘れよう
guess
と
this
する
makes sense,
人
but you
間
don't be a dick
が
about
時
it.
にはいるのでな。ゆっくり考えるがいいぞ。シャン、そしてゆっくりと休む。明日の朝日に我が印を見て改めて考
I
え
mean, you
て
could have
みる
given them
が
like
い
a
いだろ
butterfly
う。
brooch or something. Yeah.
わらわは何も強要せぬ。そなたが自らの意志で自由に未来を決めるがいい。もっとも欲する者の対価がその程度で済むとはな。貴恋をテーマに戯曲を書き上げた偉人たちが悔しがるぞ。 それでは縁があったらまた会おう。久しぶりの会話は実に楽しかったぞ。さらばだ。
I thought you said chin wasn't furniture anymore. Liar. Beatrice's body crumbled like smoke and blew away. It was golden smoke. No, a flight of golden butterflies. They scattered in all directions inside the reception hall, leaving a golden mist behind as they disappeared into thin air. After that, only the cold silence was left. The extreme silence was enough to make both of them think that they might have been daydreaming until a moment ago, which is why the witch had left it. He'd left a mark to make it impossible for them to think that this was a daydream. As Shannon and Cannon thought back on the butterfly bruises on their hands and the pain they had felt when those had been left, they stood there for some time, stunned and motionless. And from that day on, Shannon was tormented by days of suffering and conflict. Yeah, and then she goes to an aquarium. But that is where we are going to call it for tonight. Beatrice said it's time to go, and we will obey the witch. But thanks for everyone who tuned in. If you're just tuning in for this stream, it would be great if you could drop a follow, and also check out on YouTube. All my socials are down in the description below, and you can check out the previous one if you want to catch up on what happened in Chapter 1. Some other news, just as Beatrice dropped a gift, I'm also dropping a gift, which is there will be at least one bonus stream next week, Wednesday evening. It'll probably start a little bit earlier. There will be another stream as well as next Friday. There is a possibility, that there might also be a stream on Monday, so you might get triple streams from me next week. That last bit at least is just waiting on some other stuff to kind of settle up. Yeah, we haven't had triple Popeye streams in a while. It is pretty hard for me to justify 3 days of streams most times. But with that, we are going to go right into Paniku. They are a great streamer. I've watched them play Minecraft recently. They've played some other stuff. They're currently playing The Altars, which is a game I know nothing about. But we're going to go find out. So I don't have a raid message, but you can feel free to say whatever kind and loving thing you want to when we raid in. And yeah, until next time, everyone, take care, stay safe, don't make deals with witches, and if you see a mirror on a pier inside of a shrine, you should probably just leave it alone. Alright. Thanks, everyone. Stay safe. Take care. Bye for now.